Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Logan's Voice. I'm Doug Ballinger, Logan's dad. I want you to pause for a moment and imagine something with me. You're 7, maybe 8 or 9 years old. You've just been playing with your toys or running outside with your friends. Life, as far as you know, feels safe because mom is always there. She's the one who kisses the scrapes on your knees, makes your favorite sandwich, tucks you in at night. She's your protector. She's your best friend. She's your whole world. And then suddenly, she's gone. Instead of normal, there's chaos. Instead of laughter, you hear crying. The grown-ups around you are whispering in corners, their faces pale, their voices hushed. You don't understand the words they're using. Overdose, fentanyl, addiction. None of it makes sense. All you know is the person who loved you most in the world is not coming back. Children are resilient, people say, but I think sometimes we forget they're also humans. They feel the confusion, the fear, the deep loss. They may not have words for it, but they carry it inside. And while the adults are drowning in their own grief, too often the children are left trying to piece together what happened, trying to figure out why everything feels so different, and wondering, did my mom still love me? That's the reality for so many children left behind after an overdose. And it's something we don't talk about nearly enough. Because while the world debates statistics and politics, a child somewhere is just missing their mom or dad. They don't see the stigma. They don't see a bad choice. They only see their parent, the person they loved more than anything. And now that person is gone. When a parent dies from overdose or fentanyl poisoning, the child's perspective is so different from the adults around them. Adults are weighed down by circumstances, by stigma, by the complicated details of addiction and substances. But children don't see any of that. They see mom. They see dad. To a child, their parent is still the one who laughed with them, who held them through nightmares, who made them feel safe when the world felt too big. That love doesn't get erased by struggles. But here's the hard truth. Children often find themselves in a world that suddenly feels secretive. Questions like, where's my mommy? What happened to daddy? Are met with silence or with vague phrases like, they got sick or they're in a better place. And while those words are meant to protect, they can also confuse. Children are incredibly perceptive. They notice when people avoid questions, when conversations stop as soon as they walk into a room. And in that silence, kids often fill in the blanks themselves with fear, shame, or even guilt. Some wonder if it was their fault. Others wonder if maybe their parent didn't love them enough to stay. That's why it's so important we acknowledge their view of the world. Because for them, it's not about the word overdose. It's about the person who read them bedtime stories or packed their school lunch and now isn't there. When we forget the child's perspective, we risk letting stigma become louder than love. And if the first lesson they learn about their parents' death are whispered rumors or shamed silence, that shapes how they carry their grief for the rest of their lives. And let's talk about the grief they carry. Grief in children looks different than grief in adults. We expect tears, sadness, maybe talking about memories, but often children's grief shows up in ways we don't immediately recognize. Some act out, suddenly they're angry or defiant or struggling in school. Others shut down. They get quiet, withdrawn, almost invisible. Some will keep asking the same questions over and over. Where's my mom? When is dad coming back? Even though they've been told the answer. It's not that they don't understand. It's that they can't quite accept it yet. Grief is too big for little hearts to hold all at once. So it comes out in bursts. a few tears, then back to playing. A meltdown over something small, when really it's about something enormous they just can't put into words. And here's the danger. Because children can seem resilient, we sometimes assume they're bouncing back. But the truth is, if they don't have the right support, that grief just gets buried. It doesn't disappear, it waits. And it shows up later in their teenage years, in young adulthood, sometimes in ways that look like their parents struggle. And then there's stigma, that cruel, heavy silence that follows overdose deaths. Children pick up on it, even if nobody says the word. They notice the looks, the awkward pauses, the way their parent's name isn't spoken with the same warmth anymore. And that stigma can twist their grief into shame, leaving them feeling like their mom or dad's life, and by extension their own, doesn't matter. That's why we can't leave these children to navigate grief alone. Their loss is real, their pain is real, and their healing depends on us, on the adults who are brave enough to face the hard questions, speak the truth, and remind them again and again, your mom or dad loved you. Their struggles don't define their worth, and they don't define yours either. So how do we help? How do we protect those children who have already lost so much? First, we start with honesty. Not brutal, adult-sized honesty that overwhelms them, but age-appropriate truth. If we avoid their questions or cover everything in vague answers, kids fill in the silence with their own stories. And those stories are almost always heavier and scarier than the truth. Saying, Mommy died because of something called an overdose. It means her body couldn't handle the medicine she took. It's a way of giving them language without loading them with shame. Second, we create safe spaces for them to ask questions again and again. Grief doesn't end with one conversation. Children will circle back at different ages with new levels of understanding. What you tell a 7-year-old might not be enough for them when they're 11. They'll need reminders that it's okay to ask and it's okay to feel whatever they feel. Third, we affirm over and over that their parent loved them. Addiction clouds judgment, but it doesn't erase love. Every child deserves to know that they were cherished, even if their parents struggled. And finally, we surround them with community. A trusted mentor, a counselor at school, grandparents, church family, organizations like Hope Movement. Kids need to see that they are not alone and their parents' life is remembered with dignity, not erased by stigma. Protecting children in the wake of overdose isn't just about guarding their hearts today. It's about shaping how they carry their grief into the future. When they know their questions are welcome, when they hear again and again that their parents' life had meaning, and when they feel held by community, that's when resilience becomes real. That's when hope has a chance to grow, even in the middle of loss. This is where Hope Movement Coalition comes in. At its heart, Hope Movement isn't just an organization, it's a community, a circle where stigma is stripped away, where stories are honored, and where families know they don't have to walk this road alone. And that includes the children. Importantly, it includes the children. Too often when a parent dies from overdose, the adults receive support groups, recovery resources, maybe counseling referrals. But the children are left in the margins. Yet they carry some of the heaviest grief of all. Hope Movement is a conduit of care for those children. That means we step in as a bridge. We help create environments where a child can hear their parent's name spoken with love, not judgment, where they can ask hard questions without being shushed, where they can see that their mom or dad's life was more than their addiction. We honor the fullness of those parents, sons, daughters, workers, friends, neighbors, because every child deserves to know their parent's story isn't defined by the way they died. And by holding space for those truths, we're also protecting the children themselves. We're telling them your grief matters, your voice matters, and your future is not limited by your parents' struggle. Every time we stand together at Bridge the Gap, in support groups, in quiet one-on-one conversations, we are building a network of love that catches those children who might otherwise fall through the cracks. That's what Hope Movement is about. Not just awareness, not just prevention, but compassion in action. For parents, for families, and for the smallest, most vulnerable hearts left behind. As we close today, I want to leave you with this thought. Behind every statistic, every headline about overdose, there's a ripple effect. And too often, at the center of that ripple is a child, wide-eyed, confused, and suddenly without the person they loved most in the world. That child doesn't see numbers or politics or stigma. They just miss their mom. They miss their dad. So the question is, when we encounter that child, what will we see? Will we see the stigma, the struggles, the whispered shame? Or will we see the love that still lives inside that child's heart, the unbreakable bond between them and their parent? We cannot change the fact that too many children are losing their parents in this crisis, but we can change how they are met in the aftermath. We can choose to speak their parents' name with dignity. We can choose to give honest, compassionate answers to their questions. And we can choose to surround them with love and community so they never feel alone. Every time we do that, we push back against stigma. We plant the seeds of healing, and we show these kids that while their parent is gone, the love remains, and they remain worthy of love too. If you take one thing away from today's episode, let it be this. Every child left behind needs to know two truths. One, that their parent loved them. And two, that their parent's life was more than their struggles. Thank you for listening today and for holding space for these little ones who are carrying grief far too big for their years. If today's episode spoke to you, I invite you to follow me on my YouTube channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing, and even commenting. It helps the algorithm get the word out to more families, more parents, more children who need to hear the truth about this crisis and the hope that still exists. Until next time, I am Logan's voice. I am Logan's dad. And I will not be silent. If today